We have a beautiful guest with us today. I cannot wait to have this conversation with her. Her name is Sharina Gutierrez. She is a supermodel, blogger, business owner, supermom, looking to make an elevating impact on the world she can reach around her. She has graced the pages of Vogue, Elle, Glamour, to name a few, a subject of art to top photographers. Sharina's campaign resume consists of United Colors of Benton, Revlon, Rimmel, Estee Lauder, Reebok, Tommy Hilfiger, Levi's, Gap, and many more. Having been in the fashion business for over 18 years, Sharina's focus has graduated to being a present mother, partner, and understanding boss in her workforce. She says modeling will always be a blessing and a gateway that led her to her two dreams. Hi! Welcome, welcome, welcome! We're so happy to have you.
Hi, guys.
Hi. I'm so grateful our paths crossed recently. I feel like cosmic sisters, soul sisters are uniting now more than ever. It makes me so happy.
Cosmic world, Super Saiyan, Sailor Moon, everything.
Exactly what she said. Okay, we want to get to know you. We did your intro.
Okay.
Let's deep dive. Talk about your story. Take us back down memory lane.
Okay. I am an interesting character.
Well, let's start with
what do you guys want? There's so many beginnings, I feel like.
Let's start with how you got your start in modeling, because I know a lot about your story, but you came
because you read my numbers.
Yes.
So you know.
What is your number? Do you know?
I'm a life path 4, but I'm a destiny number 8. So actually, this Sunday is going to be quite powerful for all of us. But
yeah, the 8 portal.
Really good
Saturday, Lionsgate on Saturday.
But there's something about your story that is very American dream to me. You came from
the angels think so too.
Yeah. And you really became this top model at a very, very young age. Like, you started modeling when you were 12?
Yeah, I feel like my life as a young child, I felt like at such a young age, like the world was like against me at such a young age for some weird, odd reason. My dad was an explorer, so he was like really not really around. He would be gone for like months at a time. And my mom was basically a single mom for 3 children, and my older sister has Down syndrome. So you can only imagine. My family is so culture driven and oriented that it's like, girls need to stay at home. You need to know how to cook. You need to clean. You're going to become a nurse. This is your life. So I felt like I didn't really have like a normal childhood where I'm like riding bikes outside. It's like more so like my mom was working, so I had to learn to cook, to clean, take care of my sister who has Down syndrome. And like, my sister is 21 years older than I. Or no, not 21, 11 years older than I.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah. 11 years older than I. I said 21 because I was thinking in my mind a different number. Anyways, she's 11 years older than I. So for me, modeling, when it came about, I was bullied a lot at a young age because I looked like an alien. I was very, very thin. I did ballet. And I didn't have any curves. I was literally like a long, beautiful pole. And and I, going to school, I literally felt like a lot of kids were like making fun of me, and like I was just not. I guess I was really introverted in a sense. And then I met this girl in the 6th grade, and she was doing acting at John Robert Powers. Have you guys ever heard of that, John Robert Powers? So it's like it's a agency where they have like acting classes, but they're like worldwide. They have like a bunch of little things. I think Ashton Kutcher came from there, and Ava Longoria, and like all these other people were discovered there. So when I'm just doing long story short because there's so much about my life back then that we would be here for hours if we were doing this. But when I came into modeling was this girl, her name was Ariel, actually. Her name was Ariel. Whoa. Yeah. Her name is Ariel, and we called her Ari, and she's like, hey, you're weird looking. You probably do really good in this. You should try it. And she was actually one of my first friends in 6th grade because I had just transferred into a new school from a private school. So I was in like an all Catholic school. So now on top of everything, I was going to a Catholic school. Went into a public school, which was like culture shock.
Of course.
And kids are mean, you know? So not all of them, not if you teach them right, but at the time they were very like, they bullied me. And she was like, yeah, you should try. And to me, it's like anything that could get me out of the house. I was like, sure, I want to do that. And I feel like I can do that. And I watch enough TV to be able to like want to do acting. So it was never modeling. It was, I wanted to do acting. And I begged and I begged and I begged my mom, and she was like, no. And I was like, why? Like, why can't I do this? And then when she looked through the brochure said that there was etiquette classes, and she loved that because I was such a tomboy. And she was like, you need to learn to sit down with your legs crossed. And the only way I'm going to let you do this is if you take the etiquette classes. So I was like, okay. So I went there. I went through their like little their audition process, and then long story short, they accepted me. I went to my first class. I was about to take the etiquette class, but on my first class, right after I left the first class, there was a woman named Susie who saw me, and she was like, come into my office, I would love to talk to you. And she told me about this competition called IMTA in New York that was being held in New York. I guess they have one in California and they have one in New York. And then New York is like the big one where all the modeling agencies go. And I guess at the time, because this was almost 20 years ago, every major agency went there. IMG, DNA, or IMG, I don't know if DNA existed then, but like Elite, New York Models, like every huge agency went there to find talent. They were, I guess they were also the judges. I'm not sure how that worked, but they were all there. So she told me, she was like, you should really join this competition. And I was like, me? You know, like I'm so used to being made fun of for how I look and things like this. I'm like, you want me to be a part of it? So I got excited because that's like, oh, that's a big compliment and that makes me feel good. So I was like, Mom, let's go. Of course. Again, she was like, no. Long story short, I never did the etiquette classes because I ended up doing this IMTA. I did this IMTA thing and I won. And I was like 12 years old, and there was, I think, 3,000 girls there of all different ages, and I had won. And they told me that I had like the biggest response ever, I think, in IMTA history with like callbacks. So I had like pages of callbacks of like agents to like. So I went and it was between IMG and LA Models. I really wanted to be with IMG because of, you know, like some of my the people that I looked up to and like people that you see on magazines, they all were signed with IMG at the time. But my mom said I was too young. So she was very like still trying to shelter me, even though my soul was like, oh, be free. Like, let me just be free. She was like, yeah, no, you're still 12 years old and you being in New York at 12 is just insane. So no, you can't do that. But I'll let you sign with LA Models, which LA Models, till this day, I'm still with my agent, who is now with Lips LA. But I've known her since I was 12 years old, and she's guided me through my whole journey. Wow. But yeah, so that catapulted my modeling, and I started in Los Angeles. But being that at that age, I still traveled. So my first job was Italian Vogue. So I booked Italian Vogue for my first job at 12. And they were booking me for the cover, but I had to be topless, but they didn't know I was 12.
How did they think you were?
I don't know. I told you I was an alien. Like, so I mean, looking back at my Polaroids, I feel like I looked really young, so I'm not sure. But of course, they were probably thinking, oh, she's older. They wouldn't, But I got the job. Although I didn't get the cover because I couldn't be topless on the cover and all the girls were topless on the cover. But I was in Italian Vogue for my first job ever. So that was pretty cool. And that just kind of like where it catapulted and started. And from that point, I was booking like major campaigns. I did like 8 or 9 seasons with Benetton with David Sims. Mm-hmm. And then I was the first ethnic girl for like Hollister, and then I think since then I've modeled for like over 41 brands, and been the face for over like 41 brands. Just my most recent is like Estee Lauder, Gap. I've done Reebok. Reebok was really cool because I was able to do that with like Gigi Hadid and Ariana Grande and like Ray Schmurder and all those people. And I think that was a job that made me realize like the level I was playing at, because I never saw myself in that space. I always ever saw, like, I just saw myself as me.
Right.
And I never put myself in a level to anyone. I just kind of went through the flow of like work because it was always abundant for me, but I never saw the jobs that I did as like ranking of what it, until that job. Because when I showed up, I thought there was just going to be a bunch of people. I was like, oh, it's Reebok. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a bunch of people. And I showed up and they were like, okay, yeah, so this shooting day is just about you. I said, oh, okay, that's interesting. Who's the other people? And then they told me, and I was like, hold on. Did you book me? Are you guys sure that you booked the right person? And they're like, yeah, silly. I'm like, okay. Right, but seriously, that's been my whole life until I guess I had my awakening of like when I went through my spiritual journey.
Yeah.
That's when I started to realize like who I really am, because I feel like going through my job and the job becoming a lifestyle for me rather than just a job, I was comparing myself to a lot of other women and younger girls. And I never saw myself more than like just being here. Mm-hmm. I never saw myself here, which I was here. Yeah. I felt like I was down here because there'd be jobs like Gucci and big, huge job. Like, girl, some of the names that would just pop up on my chart. I'm like, oh, I want that one because that one's going to catapult me and like make my career so much bigger. But really, in reality, like I was never really present with my career because I wanted something more. I'm like, I want that job because that will give me more recognition. But really, all the jobs that I had done gave me recognition. Like I was doing huge things that I felt like I wasn't really present for because I wasn't present with myself. So that was my career.
Were you always confident, or did you deal with any sort of, I mean, if I was next to that many girls, I know I would have battled self-esteem issues. Did you have any of that? And
I was confident in front of the camera. Like, when you had me in front of the camera, that's it. I'll work that camera. No one else exists. I will work that room. Like, I'll make this woman that I just met look like she's my best friend. You know? I was great in front of the camera, but once the camera was off, I felt like I had an insecurity about myself that I didn't know where it came from, because it's so unlike me. And if somebody, you know, if you pulled one of my closest friends and asked, like, oh, what do you love about Sharina? They'll probably say, oh, her confidence, and she's really funny and she's crazy, right? So but I didn't see that in myself. So, like, they might have seen it, but I didn't see it in myself. So what I feel like was portraying out of me was like I was acting rather than being myself. I was always in a constant act of, like, feeling like I had to be someone that I wasn't. So once I realized who I truly was, as you can see, it's like on my Instagram, you barely even see photos of myself. You see, like, my children, you see, like, because I found that I don't need likes or people validating that I'm this beautiful person, because I know I am now. And back then, it's like I felt like I needed to act a certain way and post certain types of photos to get certain types of likes, and, like, be friends with only, like, high profile people and things like this, because it was the world that I was surrounded in.
Right.
And it consumed me. And I was telling Kara Hart, like, before, when we first met and we were first talking, I was like, I told her that modeling was a lifestyle for me rather than just a job. And if I knew then what I know now, I would have treated it like a job and been disconnected from it. The beauty of life is, like, you have the ability to start over whenever you want, right? So I started over, and I told myself, like, if modeling jobs are meant for me, it's not going to be based off of, like, me hanging out with, like, A-list celebrities or being a person that I'm not, you know? It's like, if they want me, they're going to accept me for what my message is and what I want people to see. And I know for a while, I'm sure people were thinking, like, could this possibly really be Sharina? Because this is not who we know.
Yeah.
You know, because they saw this, like, partier, crazy, like, ready to go, always new, like.
It must have been so hard being in this world of modeling. And I know that landing Italian Vogue is a really big deal. So you found success so young. And then, like you said, you were told by photographers and people who to be, what to be. Like, that must have been very challenging during such formative years to, like, get to this place where you know yourself, right? Like, was there a moment where you realized that you maybe a rock bottom moment, or you had an identity crisis? You're like, wait.
I had
what about me?
Rock bottom moments.
But what was that moment that, like, you know what, like, I need to get in touch with myself, which led to a more spiritual path, where you feel that you started the journey of you and not the journey of what everyone told you to be?
I've had great guys in my life, you know? So I feel like it's always a relationship that makes you realize who you are, you know?
Oh, they're our biggest teachers.
Yeah, so I had really unawake people in my life.
Yeah.
Who I allowed, let me pick my words, okay? Who I allowed to manipulate me. Like, I allowed that to happen. Because, you know, when people say, oh, like, he manipulated me, no, you allowed that to happen.
I also imagine people saw you as larger than life. Like,
I've had people date me just because of who I am. But I didn't realize that being with this celebrity, you know, was the reason why they were with me was because I was that too.
Yeah.
And to me, it was like, you know, that's like my dream guy. We can have fun together. We can, but the dream guy doesn't mean the dream guy was treating me right, you know?
Right.
And although I've had some really amazing people in my life where I felt like I needed to be more of a person they didn't want me to be, like they actually liked me for like me, and then I destroyed it because I was told that I needed to do paparazzi stuff or do this stuff, and like it ruined my relationship, and I didn't realize that because I was naive and I was too young. And but I feel like everything happens for a reason. And I've been in, there's one relationship that I am in now where this man has been in my life for like 7 years. And there was a point when we parted because I went through this crazy roller coaster with him, and I wasn't able to have, I had gotten pregnant twice after my son with him. And I ended up getting why is it blanking from my mind? I had oh my gosh, this is how much I've like healed from it. It's gone.
I
can't
love
even,
that.
I can't even think about it right now. It's called a ectopic pregnancy. There you go.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I had 2 of them with him, and I was like, and then that, like, I wasn't awake at that time, you know? So it's like, to me, it's like, we are not meant for each other. Because I am, from the first one, I almost died. So I had like a liter and a half of blood just sitting in my stomach. Came to Louisiana to meet his family. We had found out that I was pregnant. We weren't going to tell his family just yet because that's not what we were going to tell his family when I met him or when I was meeting them. I ended up in the hospital, and they ended up taking care of me for like, for over a month.
Oh my God.
So that's how I met his family. And they're the most amazing people. Like my mother-in-law is inside right now, and she is the best person ever. She has a cancer just like me. So I feel like we resonate a lot with each other. And like you said earlier, it's like when you get along with your partner's parents, it is key. And when they accept you for like all of your flaws, like they've seen me grow within these 7 years. Because him and I had to part for him to also grow, because he was very immature in himself as well. And I feel like we were 2 immature people trying to be adults in a relationship where we needed to part and grow up. So being without him, it's like I dated people, and we dated people in between within the 7 years. And like those people used me, abused me, and like it was just like I felt like I was losing myself, and I hit a rock bottom where like I felt like my career wasn't going forward. Life was just hard because my son wasn't with me every day, and it's like having to share that with his dad, and like it just was this whole roller coaster of why is the world against me when I'm doing, like, I'm just genuinely a good person. So it made me like bitter inside. Like if I went out, I would need, like, I hated guys at one point. You could not, if you were a guy, you could not be around me because, for instance, I would call up my friends who own a club, and I'm like, hey, I'm coming out. I'm bringing my friends out. They're like, okay, we'll set you up. And I'd have a table, and I would have 2 bodyguards there right in front. Why? I'm like, why? Because I was in a place in my mind where I could not literally be around guys. Like a guy could say, you're beautiful, and I'd want to smack him in the face. Like it was like my lowest of low, and just I felt like the world was against me. Like my career wasn't where I wanted it to be. I felt like I started to do things like I was drinking a lot, and I was hanging out with people who were doing things that weren't weren't from my higher self. You know, it's like I was just surrounded with people who were not meant for me. And then when I realized that, I actually met my spiritual brother, who's Prana, which I introduced you to. I met him and he gave me a reading, and he told me, like, you know, because I always believed in that world. I just was always told that it was wrong because I'm Catholic. Like, I grew up Catholic. And that is like voodoo stuff. Like, you don't do that stuff. So when he gave me a reading and he told me about he told me about past life stuff that unless you were me, you would not have known.
Yeah.
So he told me about that stuff. He told me like where I should be, what I should be doing. After that call, I became a vegan. I stopped smoking cigarettes. I stopped drinking, and changed my life. Cold turkey, everything.
Wow.
And my life changed at that point. And I remember he said, give yourself 3 days and tell me what you think. And I said, okay. On the third day, I went to an opening. My friend Noah was opening a Greek restaurant in Rodeo, or in Beverly Hills. So I went, and it was the same people that I used to hang out with, same kind of crowd, but I was sober. And when I went in, they already started to like try to give me drinks, try to, you know, like get me to smoke cigarettes, smoke weed, and all of this stuff. And they were like, what's up with you? And I said, no, I quit that. And the first thing one of those people said to me was, we'll see how long that lasts.
Ooh.
And that made me realize, like, I had been surrounding myself around fucking assholes. And my like, I felt like I was so depressed for so long of my life, but really it's like I was doing that to myself.
Yeah.
I was surrounding myself around people who were not uplifting me. They were like using me for who I knew, who I could get to sit at tables with me. And they didn't love me for who I really am. And it's unfortunate because they don't really get to see, or they will now, but they don't really get to see, they didn't get to see who I grew up to be, because they only saw the child that was in me that didn't know better, you know?
Yeah.
But I feel like life is like a constant getting to know yourself, because I feel like you don't really know yourself fully, and I don't think you ever will. It's just like every day is going to be a constant, like, getting to know yourself. Like 41st dates. Like, you wake up and you remember all this stuff about you, but then you have to learn more about you, because those things could be, it's an ever-changing evolution. It's life school.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm currently in right now, is life school, is learning how to be who I want to be and who I'm meant to be, and creating a career that's based off of like who I want to be and who I want the world to know me as. And that, I feel like, is my biggest mission right now, besides being a parent. Because being a parent nowadays, it's like, it's either people understand your parenting or they think you're crazy and a hippie, and
So
but that's a whole other conversation.
Sorry. Did you then go through incredible feelings of isolation?
I
Because
did.
you suddenly had to cut off all these friends. Yeah.
Everyone. I cut off, like, do you hear Lila?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, she just woke up from a nap.
Yes.
Like, I'm sweating. You see the beads going down my face right now?
No.
It's humid out here. Okay.
You look incredible.
I did. I was super isolated. I felt alone a lot of. I feel like the journey to self-discovery is a lonely journey.
It certainly is.
I had to change, like, the more that I discovered about myself, the more people were just like dropping from my life. And I'm like, but why? But I realized it's because my vibration, like I was raising in vibration and they were still living in the world that they're living in. Yeah. And I understand now that when I look back, I'm like, I still have love for those people. I absolutely do. I'm just in a different place in my life. So what resonates with them is like, that's the dimension they're living in the world that they want to live in. But I want this for me. So now I'm attracting other people like you guys and people who I can have more uplifting conversations with, where like everything isn't about what job did you book, who are you hanging out with, are you an A-list celebrity, who are you dating, and what kind of a car are you driving. Like I'm like, life is different now. Like I can have a conversation with you guys and you're like, so what part of that like made you feel uplifted? You know, it's like a whole other beautiful space with that I pray and I is my wish for everyone in the world, but it's like they have to go through that journey. And everyone's journey is different.
What were some of the tools that you used to pull yourself out of that transition?
Yeah, because how did you even, it's like you were so inundated in the modeling world from ages 12 to whenever this awakening happened, which I believe was in your 20s, right? So
I was 4 years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
It's been so hard to be able to like see the forest through the trees after you basically grew up in that industry with those people and only knowing that way of life.
I had to realize what was fake and what was real. And me doing that is I had to be just fucking do it, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like I had to just immerse myself into a place where I wasn't afraid to show what I truly believed in. And if people dropped from my life, is because they didn't resonate with me. That's kind of like the quote that's like, if I sage my place and you don't want to come because I sage and you don't like the smell, well, then it's working.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So that's like, that is what happened in my life. I started to preach things, which I don't know if you guys have been following me prior in my party life. So like that life versus when I started my transition, I think you guys could see like, I just was like a big F it moment. Like, I'm gonna just do it. And people were like, she cray, you know, like how could she be like this and then go like this? But the more consistent I was, and like, you know, there's another saying that I just posted, I think Third Eye Spiritual, like posted something about it, but it was, they said how when like haters, you know, they observe your life so much that they end up mimicking you because they spend so much time observing you and talking so much, you know, trying to talk shit about you, but realizing like we are actually planting the seeds in them to change their lives. That's my life. I feel like all I could do was say, fuck the haters, and I'm going to just do me. And if that causes me to like lose a bunch of following and not have 1 million likes, then cool. I'm cool with that, because then that doesn't resonate with my highest good, right? So the jobs that I'm going to book are people who want me to represent them because this is who I am. And I feel like that was the beauty of it. And once I did that, like I ended up booking like Estee Lauder for multiple seasons, and was just, you know, that was always like on my dream board of like, you know, when I go through airports and stuff, you see Estee Lauder, and I'm like, oh, one day I'm going to do that. And I learned how to manifest. So like, these were my tools. Meditation. I had to learn to be quiet because I was on the go. And I had to have constant people around me and like validation and things like that. So like finding that okay feeling of being with just myself, I had to learn that first. I did that through journaling and many a nights crying Candles, I really resonate with them because they do speak with you. They spark, they clap, they do all that stuff. They speak. I did a lot of candle work. I did a lot of apologizing to myself. And I used like prana for a lot of healing things. Like when I couldn't understand why I was feeling a certain way or why I was attracting this person into my life, like was helping me. And he's like a cheat code to life. You know, once you learn to like meditate and listen to your intuition, like, and have those superpowers, like really channel those superpowers, like you have cheat codes to life. And it's a beautiful thing. But learning and being able to take the time to actually harness that power, like you have to, one, be able to be alone with yourself and find that peace with yourself. So it's like a lot of those tools for me were sit your ass down in a room.
Yeah.
Who cares? Cry.
Yeah.
And then figure you out before you can even be around anyone. And then once I was able to have a little bit of that like alone time with myself and being able to be around people, it was easier because everywhere I went, people were still drinking. People were still doing the same things because that was my crew.
Right.
But it's like, how do I be different? It's like, okay, I have to show them that I'm not doing those things. And then they see the difference. But it caused me, like when I started to go out again and, you know, kind of, because I still had to be a human and go outside and be normal. So when I would go out, I would feel like I was being a mom a lot, like, or trying to teach people. So then once I felt like I was getting to that place in my life, then I had to seek other ways of like fulfilling my life with other people. So that's when a lot of me pushing a lot of people away out of my life. Not that I like deleted them, just kind of, this isn't, that road was just, had to go left instead of right, you know? I was always doing this. Had to go like this. Had to go like this and then broom screet and like the other way, for sure. And once I did that, I felt like a sense of freedom. It was very, I felt like, what do I do now? You know? Because my life wasn't consumed with guys anymore. You know? Because when I told Prana, he goes, oh, this was my first conversation with Prana. He told me that I was going to be pregnant by the end of that year. I had spoken to him in the end of February.
Wow.
He told me that I was going to be pregnant in a serious relationship in the end of that year, and I already knew that person. And I was like, what?
Did you know it was your current partner when he said that?
No. Because I didn't think him and I would ever be back together.
Oh, wow.
Because I treated him, like, I'm not even going to lie, I treated him like shit because I was going through shit.
Yeah.
So I was like, how could I? Never in my mind. That just happened.
Wow.
It went like this. Had this conversation with him. He told me this, and I was like, yeah, okay. But I had no choice at that point but to believe because he had named so many things that was true about my past.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot because this is all that I got, right? And if this fails me, then at least I tried everything. I tried everything. So I gave it a shot. I did the best that I could. And man, the darkness has a way of disguising itself to be good. It really does. Because when you're going through that journey, like people pop back up and they're like, oh yeah, positivity. And then you go back in and you're like, whoa, yeah, no, that's not what I meant. You know, like you're on a whole other level. So I went through like that journey for sure. And then something inside of me told me that I should apologize to this man that I'm currently with. And I called him one day when I was in New York City and I said, hey, like, let's meet up. I think I have some stuff that I want to say to you, and I ended up apologizing for being bitch and owning up to like my failures in the relationship and like blaming a lot of like what had happened to me physically with the ectopics and losing the babies on him when technically it's not his fault, you know?
Right.
But I blamed it all on him because it was the easiest thing for me to do at the time. So I had to own all those things. And through that process, we became friends. And yeah. And then I ended up getting pregnant at the end of that year. And
No way.
And then I remembered my conversation with Donna. I ended up remembering my conversation with P, and I was like, he told me this was going to happen. Wow. He totally did. But he also told me a lot of things that are currently happening in my life right now. But it's like, even though it doesn't happen, like when you go and you have these like spiritual readings, like from someone who genuinely can do it and like does it for good, you know, because people could do this for bad. So when he told me these things, I remember like feeling, okay, but it's not happening. But it's not happening. And it just became like this whole, a month later, but it hasn't happened. I haven't met anyone. I can't get pregnant like that. Like, what are you talking about? And it just like, I doubted the process. And then he's like, but it doesn't work like that. But I had to go through my journey of realizing that it happens when it's meant to happen. Even though you have these cheat codes and like these like it's like a cheat sheet. Like, yes, this is going to happen, but when is it going to happen? But when you let it go and actually just allow it to just kind of manifest into your life, then that's when everything started to happen very quickly, because instead of me being like, it needs to be like this, because that was very me in the past. It's like, schedule, need to know this is what I'm doing, this is this.
Out of the four.
That's not how this world works at all. So, yeah. I've been learning that, and I'm still in the process of learning that, actually, because a lot of this, like even what's going on in my life now, he called on that first reading.
Wow.
And it's happening now, and that's like 4 years later.
4 years ago.
4 years later. Yeah.
I'm like, wow. Crazy.
Yeah.
It takes so much courage for you. First of all, I want to applaud you on your journey. But like the courage that you had to show up for yourself and to choose yourself above all else. Like that's an incredibly isolating journey that many people are like, oh, spiritual path, woo woo. Like, no, it takes dedication. What'd you say, Kay?
It's the harder path, the spiritual path, and any commitment to growth. That is the harder path. Like in some ways it's easier to just like go with the flow, like go with what everyone else is doing around you and just keep the status quo.
So
and
there's
no,
that is what you said I did in my past life.
Yeah. Look at you mastering it now.
My karmic numbers were 13 and 14. And you said that in my past life that's something that I did was I allowed other people in my past life and this life too, because I'm living my current life. So was I allowed people to tell me who I needed to be, and I followed it because that helped me reach fame at an easier, like more easily than doing it this way.
Yeah.
And it's not even just about the fame part, it's like getting to where I want to be in my life. So yeah, and that your readings were pretty spot on with me too, which was pretty crazy.
So accurate.
Yeah.
We were just talking about this.
She got her fiance on the phone. She's like, wait, can I put him on speaker? And then I ended up doing his numbers. And I'm like, whoa, we need to talk. But Ariel and I are basically the same numbers as you and your partner.
Wow. Yeah, so wait. No, yeah, my partner is a 1. And I forget what his destiny number is.
He's a 1.
A 1 and a 9. Yeah.
Good
and you're a 22 and a
I'm a 1, and then Ariel's a 22.
Yes.
The 22 make up nearly like master traits of the 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 4 on steroids, essentially, like the quick, easy way to put it. So I'm a 1 and she's a 22-4, and then your fiance and you are also a 1-4.
Yeah.
So it's a very similar combination of us having different strengths, and it's really like a power couple combination when you're able to really capitalize on what both of you can bring to the table, which I just do when we're all on the phone.
So basically, you're the creative house and he's the structure. That makes sense.
The structure
I'm the
and
structure.
Oh, sorry, vice versa. Got it.
But I feel like I'm also the creative house.
I mean, let's be real. A mom is all the houses.
Yeah, but you know what? He's on a journey of his own too, because when we got together, he wasn't fully immersed into his spiritual. Like, he saw it in me, and I planted those seeds in him. Like, he was already curious because he had been going to like certain meetups and things like this where his friends were starting to like learn about it. And then when he saw me, I remember when we were hanging out, like we were just hanging out, and he said that it was so weird because when he turned around, he was talking to me, but I wasn't there, because when he turned around, he was like 20 feet ahead of me and I was hugging a tree. And he was like, is she being for real, or is this for attention? But he soon realized that like that was for real, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, he'll tell you that story. That was a pretty funny story because I just found that out recently. He was like, yeah, like I thought you were joking.
That's a beautiful space for him to welcome and accept you in your authentic
Yeah,
self.
because he was like, that's so weird. He's like, you're so weird. He's like, what's going on? Because he's not used to that side of me at all. He was used to a whole other person.
Right.
So like us getting into a relationship again, he like
You had to relearn
he's like dating
each
a
other.
whole new person.
Yeah.
So a lot of us being in a relationship right now, I tell him like, but you're trying to channel the person I used to be, and that's not how it is. Because I'm not trying to be like that, and you're not like that. So let's not go back there. So it's like a learning process for us of,
For sure.
you know how they say like don't go back to exes. Well, I'm not current. Like I don't believe I'm an ex because
You're a whole new person.
I'm a whole
You
new
unraveled
person.
all
It's
of
not
those
who-
identities.
Yeah, and he's currently trying to, you know, going through his process too. So it's like learning each other is a whole other world, right? It's a new world. It's a whole new world.
And now you have a beautiful daughter.
We have a beautiful daughter, and we have a son. My son loves him, and yeah, we're embarking a whole new journey. We just bought a trailer.
Living the tiny life. What's it called? Is that what it's called? Tiny home?
Yeah, the tiny home life. We're gonna be traveling all around the U.S.
I'm so
seeing
excited.
about what.
Please
like,
come to
life.
LA.
No, I am actually. I'll be there the end of the beginning of September.
Yeah.
So I'll be there and I'll see you guys for sure.
Amazing.
Because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I feel like I need to bring you guys into that too. So
Yeah.
Currently planning our trip cross country.
How has that been? Letting go of the materialistic stuff. I mean, you have to work on, I imagine, more experiences with your son as opposed to.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be like the person that has to have the designer stuff, you know, because that's the world I grew up in. It's like designer this, designer that. Like,
well, you also designers too, so I'm sure there was an aspect of that in there as well.
Yeah, and they gifted me things and all these things, and being down here, what I've realized is I don't need any of that stuff. When you're in the real world, like not in the fashion real world, but in the real world, no one gives a shit what you're wearing.
No.
This is me right now.
No, I went from living in the East Village in New York State to the mountains of North Carolina, and very much was like, oh, like how refreshing. Nobody cares.
You can walk out in a freaking trash bag. They would probably think that was crazy, but like I can literally do that and no one gives a shit.
I'm sure people aren't asking, so what do you do? Either.
Oh no, yeah, people
They don't care.
They're like, what do you do? I'm like, I am a business owner. And they're like, no, but really, what do you do? I'm like, yeah, I'm in the fashion business, but I am a business owner for sure. Yeah, I don't get that often from here. People just,
It's so refreshing. That's just like when I go home too. You're just living. You're just being. No one
it's
cares.
just being, and no one
Yeah.
cares. People do care that you're okay though. That's the best thing. It's like they don't care about what you do, just as long as you're okay. Like, are you good? And that's the question that's asked. Like, how are you? You know, it's not like, what do you do? What are your credentials? Where, like, what have you modeled for lately? It's not nothing like that. It's like, how are you today? Is what you're doing fulfilling? That's cool. Like, you know, like it's a real life. It feels good.
And we're getting back to that. I think that's part of what we're going through as a collective whole, is getting back to truly living in an authentic way for human beings.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like this pause in life right now is just, you know, making you realize, like, what platform are you on? Are you raising your vibration? Are you staying? Because this is the time where you're meant to, like, jump.
Right. Yeah.
Like, jump onto a new platform. Because this is the time where you should be getting to know yourself, because you've been isolated. You've been put away from everybody. You
don't have the distractions.
There's no distractions. But if your mind is still wanting one thing and not concentrating on, like, the evolution of where life is going right now, you're not going to jump onto the new platform that everyone else might be jumping on right now. You'll be stuck with everyone in that dimension who's going to be in that dimension probably for all their lives, because this isn't going to happen for another X amount of years.
Right.
You know,
I've had friends who lost their job recently, and I was like, thank goodness, because now you have the time, energy, space
and
to
they're like,
truly
what?
ask yourself. They're like, no. And I'm like, it was just a mask. Now you have the time to literally go within and be like, what do I want to work on? What do I want to create? What resonates with me? What fuels me? And that's what the space is about, is giving us the time and space to ask those serious questions. You know?
Yeah. No, I get that, because I went through that. It's like, I feel like I was like I knew what I wanted to do, but I needed something to catapult and, like, make me realize what I was doing was right. Yeah. And then this happened, and I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. This makes sense during my life right now. And, like, it happened with my husband too, because my husband has a really great event company, but it wasn't fulfilling his soul. And he's like you know, he has great clients, but at the same time, he's like around people who probably don't appreciate him as much as he appreciates them, you know? Yeah. So he's like, this doesn't fulfill my soul. And then this happened, and it helped us create work and a business for us that, like, actually we're thriving off of, and, like, our souls feel fulfilled.
So beautiful. And aren't you working on a book?
Yes, I've actually kind of taken a little pause on that, because I've had some beautiful stuff happen just recently. I just signed a contract with a big manufacturing company, so I'm actually, like, in the fashion business, but on a whole other level behind the camera. But I am currently working on a book. It's like how I came from rock bottom to multi-millionaire. That's the book that I'm currently writing right now.
And you have your blog posts, which are so enjoyable, by the way, because they're real. I don't want to hear the fluffy-go-lucky. Sorry, what did you say, Karen?
Her writing is so relatable. Like, I feel like it's you're talking to me. It's not just like a formal thing, right? I feel like it's just we're on the phone having a conversation.
That's how I wanted it to be, though. I feel like that's how our conversations in the past have always been. I feel like I resonate a lot more with, like, not having, like, a list of questions because then I feel like that makes me nervous.
It puts pressure.
Just throw it at me, and if I don't want to answer, I'm gonna say I'm not answering that. You know?
Yeah.
That comes back to living authentically. That's what we're all looking for right now.
Yeah.
Real people.
I'm looking for that peace, that peace in myself of just understanding, like, that this is the life that I want to lead, and this is and whoever's going to be in my life right now is going to bring peace into my life.
I agree.
Because we have the ability to choose who we want and who we don't want in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like the beauty of life right now. And if people don't see that, it's like I feel for them, because it's like you have the ability to just say no.
Yeah.
You know, my son's father was telling me, like, when he came out here to go pick up Mason and go back to California, he said he missed a job opportunity. And just like you, guess how I was like, great.
Right.
And he's like,
Right.
what are you talking about? Like, it was a great job. And I'm like, yeah, but you're working with explosives. You could have blew yourself up. Like, this is like maybe the universe's way of like saying, hey, I protected you.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I get it, but it still would have been like a
What is
good
that?
job. Yeah, and but I'm just like you. I'm like, great. Yeah. But the funny thing is, you could be that way easily for someone else, but when it happens to you, you go through this emotional thing. Like, wait. Even now, like when something doesn't go the way that you want it to go, you're like, wait. And then you have to bring yourself back to a space of like, no, that was meant to happen this way. So it's like you end up, when you go through this journey, you take the tools and it becomes easier to just allow things to roll off of you. Letting things roll off of you is so much easier than like the first time you did it.
Yeah.
Although sometimes you look back and you're like, that could have been awesome. But at the same time, it's like, if you go back and you think, what if this, then you go through the whole web of like, then this would have happened, this would have happened, and this might have happened.
It just drains your energy to do that. It's not worth it.
Absolutely. But I mean, I'm not even gonna lie. I still battle with that, like going back and forth like that.
I think that's just being human, right? Just being reflective in general and being able to observe your thoughts as opposed to giving into them.
Yeah.
But the healing part is now you have awareness. You know you did that. You're like, oh, that's happening. Okay. But my anchor, my truth is knowing that everything in the universe is conspiring in my favor.
Yeah.
Whether I see it, feel it, or not, that is my truth, and that's what I can continue to hold on to. And when you're not, you're like, oh, okay. Being aware is a massive step to healing and to advancing.
Absolutely. And being aware of like you and like your surroundings is like the best thing that you can do for yourself.
Environment is huge.
Yeah, huge.
I mean, I know like you love your plants. You have your crystals in your plants. What are
I'm
some of the
wearing
other
them
things?
all the time.
Same. Love it. What are some of the other things that you do to help keep your frequency, your vibration high in your space?
A ritual, like routines.
Daily?
You know, because daily routines are rituals that you have with yourself. So like that for sure is like something that I use on a daily basis. And if I realize like when I don't follow those rituals, because it's okay to take days off, but if there's like consecutive days that I veer off of a ritual, like I see the regression of myself. It's like finding that time to, again, find time for yourself. You know, as moms and as partners, women, we usually have a tendency to like give and give and give and give so much of ourselves that we forget to make time for ourselves. Like how when you and I did a reading, I was like, you need to be careful with like who you spread your energy to, because that's what your number one thing was. And then literally 2 days later, you broke your arm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's been crazy. Everyone's like, oh my God, that was horrible. And like,
I told you, I was like, I feel it in my hand. I said, I don't know why I feel something in my hand. Yeah.
And like, to be honest, the bill is horrible and like it was painful. But Carhartt knows I doubled down and I was like, okay, I'm in this for 5 weeks. I can't do shit. Like I couldn't even do my yoga, let alone work out. But I was like, how can I reframe what it means to me for these next 5 weeks? I just doubled down on making it like my intuition gym. And like, how far can I advance spiritually inside in these 5 weeks? I'm out now.
I love that. And we're all given like these beautiful little powers. Everyone's powers are different. So Prana made me realize that I'm capable of doing like what he does with readings and things
You
like that.
are.
Because
Yeah.
when I was a child, I was able to see the other side. I just was always told that it was wrong.
Yeah.
So
So
I'm like
crazy.
reharnessing like those powers and like using them for good and like trying to learn them and be in touch with that part without being afraid.
Do you have a quote or saying that you live by?
I have many, but let me think.
Just the first one that comes to mind.
Everything's gonna be okay in the end, because if it's not okay now, it's not the end.
That's a good one.
That is a good
That's-
one. You know what's funny? So when I did a lot of work with suicide intervention, and individuals that are incredibly suicidal, the doctor's goal is merely to keep them alive and functioning, because we understand that everything in life is a cycle. So it's not physically possible and energetically possible for you to remain forever in that low vibration.
Yeah.
So it's that same thing, like knowing it's not the end, and things
Like this
change.
too
The
shall
waves
pass.
come in, the waves go out. The moon or the sun rises again. But,
But
Like this too shall pass.
yeah,
Yeah.
literally. Hello, darling.
She should be an actress, my daughter, let me tell you. She was crying bloody murder. And now look at her.
and now everything.
Hi. Is she wearing crystals? What's on
Yeah,
your-
she is around her neck.
Of course.
Her chakra necklace. And actually her wearing it has prevented her from drooling so much. She doesn't drool
wow.
ever.
Hi. Thank you for joining us today. She's a star child for sure.
She is.
You
And
do
actually,
realize, too,
when
you were
Tara did her new numbers,
Oh,
she
really?
has no karma debt. None.
Amazing.
No karmic
She's
debt.
here to raise Earth's frequency and vibration.
Absolutely.
She didn't even have to come here. She's a volunteer. 100%
Yeah.
a volunteer.
She's like, oh, look, mommy, you got it right this time. I'll come and see you.
Yeah. No, literally. It's not even about that. It's your body had to physically be recalibrated in order to handle her high frequency and vibration.
Oh,
That's
when I
what
was
it was.
pregnant with her, I never had this before. I had high blood pressure, and I realized why it was
That's literally
because
a
her
sign.
vibration was so high. And
Yeah.
trust me,
That's crazy. So
we have a
she's
lot to
literally-
talk about.
We do. She's such a volunteer. That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Literally here to raise Earth's frequency and put people in a remembrance, guide them to remembrance of who they are and what their mission is. Wow.
She is that, literally. She's been putting me on point. After she came into my life, like I've had to really, I'm talking about you. I had to literally change. I changed my life completely. My life changed.
I love it. I love it. We're so grateful for you. We love you so much. Always here in your corner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Enjoy your day.
And the stars aligned.
Yeah.